The Washington, D.C. government now wants to give every Black American $1.3 million for reparations for slavery.
D.C. council members are working to make reparations available for African Americans in the district whose ancestors were once enslaved.
In the D.C. City Council's decision this week to fund a task force to study reparations for Black descendants of slaves. Council members are doling out $1.5 million to create the 9-member commission that will be charged with figuring out the best way to award reparations and who qualifies.
The Washington, D.C. government now wants to pass a bill that would potentially give each Black American $1.3 million for reparations for slavery. They have already created a 9-member commission to find out the best way to award reparations and to see who qualifies. This decision from Washington, D.C. has garnered controversy online. Commenters claim that this is a terrible decision and that this would cost taxpayers billions of dollars that could go to something else. But what do you think about the situation? Do you think that reparations are deserved? Comment your opinion down below.
When white people in the United States balk at the idea of paying reparations to Black Americans who descended from slaves, they disagree with the Bible. Reparations are a form of compensation or restitution made to those who have suffered injustice, particularly those in cases of racial inequality, discrimination, and slavery. The idea of paying reparations to Black Americans is not a new one. It has been a topic of discussion for decades, if not centuries. However, it has gained renewed attention and support in recent years, following the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement and the growing recognition of systemic racism in American society.
Now, good people, welcome back to our channel. And of course, if you're new here, please do us one favor. Subscribe to our channel. And guys, thank you so much for always being there to support this African. And guys, I love you so much. I really love you so much. Now today, I want us to react to something here. Lately, on TikTok, something unexpected is really going on, where white Americans are speaking up and saying that Black Americans deserve reparations.
Should Black people get reparations?
I believe they should.
So I, white man, have to play for Black people. Why?
Wow, that's a really selfish thing you
just
said.
Hold on. Why should I have...
That's a really non-empathetic thing to say.
Wait, why should I have empathy for a race? I have white guilt because I breathe? Why should the white students here have to work harder to pay for Black kids? What is that all about?
Not every Black person has lineage connected to slaves.
That's true.
Every white person doesn't have lineage connected to slaves.
Yes, that's right. So since every Black person doesn't have a lineage connected to slaves, why should we generalize and say reparations for Black people?
Because there are people that are in a worse place.
So over 150 years, they didn't have any ability to make better decisions, to save money, and to invest. How about you take responsibility for your own actions instead of blaming the white man?
Because, for decades, this has been one of the most controversial topics in American history, with the constant denial, dismissals, and pushbacks. But now, seeing people from the white community opening up and acknowledging the atrocities of the slavery, segregation, and systemic racism, and actually support the compensation and the discussion. That's a major shift in the conversation we have been waiting for. Now, white Americans are now demanding that Black Americans should receive the reparations.
Absolutely, I support reparations for the descendants of enslaved Africans in America. As a white man running for governor, I recognize the deep scars left by slavery and the ongoing systemic racism that continues to affect the Black communities. It's not just about acknowledging the past, it's about taking concrete steps to address the economic and social inequalities that persist today. As governor, I'll make it my mission to ensure that Black residents of West Virginia, especially those who are descendants of enslaved Americans, receive reparations. This is about justice, about making things right, about helping our state heal and move forward together. And let's take a cue from California. They're leading the charge with innovative approaches to reparations, setting up structures to determine eligibility and ensure fairness.
And we say this, it was never our will. It was never the will of the majority. We were lied to, manipulated, and enlisted in an empire without our consent. The same empire that looted your lands, looted our minds. And together, we are breaking the spell.
Good people, what do you think about this video in the comment section? Please talk to us, and let me make it clear. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Do not mistake our video. We are only here to educate and also entertain our people. So guys, if you're watching this video, if you love this discussion, please hit that subscription button and subscribe. I can see we are at 24 subscribers, but with the time, I believe and I have hopes that we're gonna hit 1,000 subscribers maybe in the next 3 months. That is my belief. So guys, let's watch some clips here where white Americans are now demanding that black Americans should be given the reparations. So guys, let's dive straight, watch the videos, then come back.
When white people in the United States balk at the idea of paying reparations to black Americans who descended from slaves, they disagree with the Bible. Reparations are a form of compensation or restitution made to those who have suffered injustice, particularly those in cases of racial inequality, discrimination, and slavery. The idea of paying reparations to black Americans is not a new one. It has been a topic of discussion for decades, if not centuries. However, it has gained renewed attention and support in recent years, following the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement and the growing recognition of systemic racism in American society. As a Christian, I believe that reparations are not only a matter of justice and equity, but also a reflection of God's character and values. In the Bible, we see numerous examples of God's concern for the oppressed, the marginalized, and the downtrodden. From the Israelites' liberation from slavery in Egypt to the ministry of Jesus among the poor and the outcast, we see a consistent theme of God's love for those who are on the margins of society. One of the key biblical principles that underlie the idea of reparations is the concept of restitution. In the book of Leviticus, we see God commanding the Israelites to make restitution to those whom they have wronged. Leviticus 6:1-5 says, "If anyone sins and commits a breach of faith against the Lord by deceiving his neighbor in a matter of deposit or security or through robbery, or if he has oppressed his neighbor or has found something lost and lied about it, swearing falsely in any of all the things that people do and sin thereby, if he has sinned and has realized his guilt and will restore what he took by robbery when he got it by oppression or deposit that was committed to him, or the lost thing that he found, or anything about which he has sworn falsely, he shall restore in full and shall add a fifth to it, and give it to him to whom it belongs on the day that he realizes his guilt." This passage emphasizes the importance of making restitution to those who have been wronged, and not just restoring what was taken, but adding to it as a form of compensation. This principle of restitution can be applied to the issue of reparations to black Americans who have suffered centuries of enslavement, discrimination, and systemic oppression. Another biblical principle that supports the idea of reparations is the concept of Jubilee. In Leviticus 25, God commands the Israelites to observe a Jubilee every 50th year, during which all debts are forgiven, all slaves to be set free, and all property to be returned to its original owners. This was a radical idea of economic justice designed to prevent the accumulation of wealth and power in the hands of a few, and to ensure that all members of society had equal access to resources and opportunities. The idea of Jubilee can be seen as a model for reparations in that it seeks to address the root causes of inequality and oppression rather than just treating the symptoms. By forgiving debts, freeing slaves, and returning property, Jubilee seeks to create a more just and equitable society, one in which everyone has the opportunity to flourish. As a Christian, I believe paying reparations to black Americans is only a matter of justice and equity, but also it is a reflection of God's values and character. Through the biblical principles of restitution and Jubilee, we see a model for how we can address the historical and systemic injustices that have plagued our society for far too long. While the issue of reparations is complex and contentious, I believe that as Christians, we have a responsibility to seek justice.
The colonial history, the legacy of enslavement, racial subordination and segregation, racial terrorism and racial inequality in the U.S. remains a serious challenge, as there has been no real commitment to reparation and to truth and reconciliation for people of African descent. Despite substantial changes, since the end of the enforcement of Jim Crow and the fight for civil rights, ideology ensuring the domination of one group over another continues to negatively impact the civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights of African Americans today. The dangerous ideology of white supremacy inhibits social cohesion among the US population. Lynching was a form of racial terrorism that has contributed to a legacy of racial inequality that the US must address. Thousands of people of African descent were killed in violent public acts of racial control and domination, and the perpetrators were never held accountable. Contemporary police killings and the trauma it creates are reminiscent of the racial terror lynching of the past. Impunity for state violence has resulted in the current human rights crisis and must be addressed as a matter of urgency. Racial bias and disparities in the criminal justice system, mass incarceration, and the thought on crimes policy has disproportionately impacted African Americans. Mandatory minimum sentencing, disproportionate punishment of African Americans, including the death penalty, are of grave concern. The persistent gap in almost all the human development indicators, such as life expectancy, income and wealth, level of education, and even food security among African Americans and the rest of the US population reflects the level of structural discrimination that create de facto barrier for people of African descent to fully exercise their human rights. There is a profound need to acknowledge that the transatlantic slave trade was a crime against humanity, and among the major sources and manifestations of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance, and that Africans and people of African descent were victims of this act, continue to be victims of their consequences. Past injustice and crimes against African Americans need to be addressed with reparatory justice. The working group urges Congress to expedite the passing of all pending criminal justice reform bills, including the End Racial Profiling Act, the Second Chance Reauthorization Act, and welcomes the bipartisan support for the Sentencing Reform and Correction Act, with, among other things, proposed to drastically reduce the use of mandatory minimum sentencing. The working group recommends to the government to allow independent monitoring of places of detention in the United States.
Absolutely, I support reparations for the descendants of enslaved Africans in America. As a white man running for governor, I recognize the deep scars left by slavery and the ongoing systemic racism that continues to affect the black communities. It's not just about acknowledging the past, it's about taking concrete steps to address the economic and social inequalities that persist today. As governor, I'll make it my mission to ensure that black residents of West Virginia, especially those who are descendants of enslaved Americans, receive reparations. This is about justice, about making things right, about helping our state heal and move forward together. And let's take a cue from California. They're leading the charge with innovative approaches to reparations, setting up structures to determine eligibility and ensure fairness. We can learn from their example and tailor a program that fits West Virginia's unique needs and history. This isn't a formal policy speech. This is just me talking to you heart to heart. It's time for change, and I'm committed to being a part of that change. Let's work together to create a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. It's the least we can do, and it's long overdue.
Reparations are an act of repair.
Now, Amanda Seals laid out 4 core assertions during her debate with the 20 Black conservatives, and I'm going to address the second one. The second one is her claim that Black people are entitled to reparations. I support and agree with this assertion, and here's why. Reparation has already been paid to others. When people dismiss reparations for Black Americans as impossible, I call nonsense. America has already paid out other groups directly. Jewish Holocaust survivors. Through U.S. Holocaust survivor programs and German reparations, survivors living in America receive monthly pensions, one-time payments up to $50,000, and medical coverage. The U.S. also allocated $26 million in 2022 for survival care. Japanese Americans. In 1988, President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act. Each survivor of internment received a $20,000 direct payment. Over $1.6 billion was distributed, along with a formal apology. Native Americans. Native tribes have exclusive programs not shared with the general populations. Billions flow through the Bureau of Indian Affairs, $3.4 billion for fiscal year 2023, and the Indian Health Services, $7.1 billion fiscal year 2023, and in casino rights, land rights, and tax benefits that generate billions in tribal-only income. Under the Refugee Resettlement Program, newcomers receive refugee cash assistance for up to 8 months of direct payments. In fiscal year 2023 alone, the U.S. spent $1.8 billion on refugee resettlement. So don't tell me reparations are impossible. America knows how to cut checks when it wants to. Outside of white descendants, no group contributed more to Americans' wealth than descendants of enslaved Africans. Cotton, agricultural, railroads, and even Wall Street itself was built on free Black labor. Yet we're the only group without exclusive reparations program. Now, see, the problem with Amanda Seales' assertion, she never explains how. As soon as reparations are announced, everybody and their mama is going to claim they're descendants of slaves. Now, who will qualify? Do 100% Black descendants get the full payment? Do biracial Black Americans get 50%? Do people with 1/4 Black get 25%? How do we even prove lineage when records were destroyed on purpose? Amanda and others throw out these claims without offering a realistic implementation plan. Even if the reparations were paid, there's no guarantee that money will stay in the Black community. Without financial literacy, discipline, and ownership, reparations could easily become a temporary payday instead of generational change. Regardless, if Black people waste the money, it's our right to do so. Yes, America owes Black people reparations, whether it's direct payments, exclusive programs like Native Americans have, tax-free business zones, or land rights. It needs to happen, but it will never happen until we stop playing a victim and demand with a serious plan what's rightfully ours. So let me be clear. Cut the check, U.S. government, just like you do for all other groups. I said what I said. Come back for my response to her third assertion.
Let me first say that this is for entertainment purposes only. So, it looks like Californians, Black Californians to be exact, are pissed off at American Psycho, a.k.a. Christian Bale, a.k.a. Newsom. Yeah, apparently they've been fighting hard to get reparations for the descendants of slaves for quite some time. They got skipped over because they say that they ain't got no money for them. But y'all got money, $150,000 worth of money to give to every immigrant who wants to buy a home in y'all state. Make it make sense. Where's Maxine Waters on the topic? Ain't she in California? The Black Caucus is in California, right? Several Black people are on that board. Where y'all at on this conversation? It's starting to be apparent that the 1% that includes the few colored people, the few bourgeoisie boule members that's in that whole little situation, they don't fuck with regular schmegular Black people like you and I. Okay? They don't give a damn about us. They don't, because the millions of dollars that they gave to that lady's campaign, how many of them you think actually invested that in their own communities, or if they are even from the community? How many of those people actually got hospitals, grocery stores, gas stations, schools made for the Black youth or put in the Black community? They don't. You could say all day, oh, well, that they can't, but they can if they wanted to, but they scared. I just find it quite weird that Maxine Waters, y'all call auntie, she sat this one out. Her and that wig just laid this. They just said, you know what, I don't want nothing to do with this conversation here. I just gonna keep ignoring what Malcolm X said about these liberals. They not for us. The wealthy Black liberals, they not like us. So at this point, I hate to say it, we ain't never gonna get reparations. We ain't gonna never get reparations. That shit is gone, long gone. They giving it to everybody but Black Americans. It's just not gonna happen. The opportunity for us to even get something, to get a piece of it, given away when Scamala addressed the U.S. Treasury Department for the Freedmen's Bank Forum. Who, no matter who, right? Okay. Good luck.
Discrimination against Black people. We are in a moment of anti-Blackness on steroids, and we refuse to be silent. We will not back down in our pursuit of racial justice. The antidote to anti-Blackness is to be pro-Black, and we will do it unapologetically. The United States government owes us a debt, and we need reparations now.
We're pro-Black. Government, give Black people free money. Bruh. Black Americans don't need free things from the government. We need to learn better spending habits. We need to focus less on consuming and more on producing. In 2021, the spending power of Black Americans reached a record high of $1.6 trillion, representing 9% of the nation's total buying power. This signifies a significant increase in the economic influence of the Black community. While spending power reached record levels, it is worth noting that Black net worth declined by 14%. We had more spending power than ever in 2021, and with that, we actually worsened our financial situations. Every other major demographics net worths increased. We got more money, and we dug ourselves into deeper holes. Black Americans don't need reparations. We live in America. There is more than enough opportunity here. What we need to learn is how to properly handle money. Black Americans as a whole, we focus on looking rich more so than actually being rich. And that's exactly how you get more money and worsen your situation with it. And until we want to look in the mirror and have these honest conversations, we're going to continue to have problems. I'm tired of reparations, be quiet. These are the people that Black Americans will vote into office and be like, yes, we want you to represent us. This is part of our problem. Like, think about it. When we had more spending power than ever, we made our financial situations worse. That's not the white man. That's not racism. That's not the system. That is very poor decision making. This country has spent hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, helping Black Americans. Let's keep it real. Let's stop complaining about the white man. Let's stop complaining about racism. Let's stop wanting reparations. And let's get to work. There's too much opportunity here, and you are too lucky to be in this country to spend your time complaining about racism, history of the white man, and whining about reparations. Grow up and move on. Let's get to work.
Black people are owed reparations in this country, but here are 3 reasons why we need to leave that argument alone. My name is Brother Legend, and I'm here to raise your consciousness. Reason number 1 is because you cannot demand respect from anyone that you are asking to give you money. Now, again, I'm not saying that money isn't owed to us. I'm not saying it wasn't stolen from us. All I'm saying is if you're going to demand respect, you're going to have to take that money. And if those people were sincere about repairing the relationship and wanted to respect you, you wouldn't have to ask in the first place. Number 2 is no amount of money, land, or tax exemption is going to fix the damage done by the greatest inhumane acts ever done in mankind's history. At this point, I'm convinced they're ready to give y'all money just to shut up about it. Just like they gave us Obama. Y'all think 40 acres and a mule is going to make racism go away? And number 3 is the greatest weakness of Africans that caused us to be so susceptible to colonization and slavery in the first place is the fact that we don't unite. The one thing we have to do to fix all of this damage is just come together and unite with our brothers and sisters in the continent and elsewhere across the globe. Africa is the most resource-rich continent on the planet by far. If an African revolution forced colonizers out and gave Africans sovereignty over their own land and resources, they would be able to create their own economy. An African dollar backed by African resources would be the most stable, high-priced dollar on earth. Instead of turning to someone else to help us, African resources could come into our neighborhoods in the form of banks, institutions like hospitals, schools, and so on, just like other communities do. African Americans need to stop looking at themselves as a singular group and come together with our cousins across the world to form an African power base outside the U.S. Now that's Black power.
Black folks, I just love it when they say that Ukraine needs money. They just need money because they're being oppressed by a much larger force. Interesting. Very nice, white America. I am so glad that you have grasped this concept that you need money to fight oppression. It's a fantastic concept that you now agree that you need firearms like the Black Panthers and so many revolutionaries have been saying for the longest time to fight against a far superior force. It's very interesting how you suddenly change the narrative when it comes to white Ukrainians. Just admit it, white America, you only care about them because they're white. That's the only reason why. You won't say that, right? But then in the same breath, you will ask black Americans who you know have been oppressed for centuries here. And you'll tell us, just wait. It's not about money. Why are you so selfish? You tell us that, meanwhile, spending a fortune on a white country.
You are saying that, yes, there are successful black people, millionaires and billionaires alike, but there are still systemic things and still systemic issues and traumas that hold black people back. You don't got an argument out of me, right? I totally agree with you. Where we disagree is where the anger is placed. You see, Republicans get blamed for a majority of this systemic issue that's holding the black community back. They made up this big old hoax that the party switched. There was literally no party switch. It's always and forever will be the Democrats are your biggest ops. Full stop. The party never switched. It never switched whatsoever. And you can just see how the Democrats are moving right now, this second. It's in their DNA. You cannot remove you cannot remove the oppressors out of the Democrats' DNA. It's literally in their pigmentation, literally. And you want to just blame the Republicans and whatnot. But the party that was founded to abolish said slavery all of a sudden are the slavers? Really? Does use your common sense. It's in their name. It won't change. As long as that party is in existence, black people will forever be underneath their boot. You want reparations, you want systemic racism to stop, you have to get rid of the Democratic Party. That's literally it. I need you to get that through your skull. No matter how much they're standing by your side, kumbaya, it's in their DNA, it's in their charter, it's just in them. All right? Everything they do is to keep the boot on your neck, and you just keep blaming Republicans. I don't understand that. Every racist policy, redlining, Jim Crow, slavery, everything points directly to the Democratic Party. And you're too foolish to understand and get that through your thick skull that they are your biggest enemy. You keep looking at the Republican Party. As long as, mark my words, as long as the Democrat Party exists, you will never get reparations. Full stop. Prove me wrong. Every time they come out and kumbaya by your side, get you to crash out and go protest. Everything that they do, it's all virtue signaling and all to just keep their boot on your neck silently, to keep you on the plantation, keep you fighting for everybody else except for your community's main interest. It's not hard, people. Just need to wake up.
My mother's Jamaican. My father's Panamanian. You have a lot of black people in this country who are not descendants of the American slave trade. So I already know off top, there's a lot of black people in America who aren't going to be able to get that kind of benefit.
Support reparations for what Leonard just deemed as, quote, foundational black Americans?
No, I don't,
No.
But I want to explain
Okay.
that.
So now, what is your position on reparations? I'm gonna be direct with you. I don't believe in reparations. I don't. Well, then you don't believe in the black community. That's next. I would tell you, brother, in the hat with the glasses on, that's not true. What I will tell you is that there's a question if you're gonna get into the full economics of reparations right now. Question number one. Of all black people in the country, how many of them are actually descendants of slaves? Because you've had a lot of immigration over the last 100 years in America. Of American slavery. There was slavery in the Caribbean. The one brother came up, he said that he's first generation, the brother in the Congo, because his parents came from Jamaica. My grandmother is from Jamaica, so my grandmother's Jamaican. I know exactly what you're talking about. My mother was born in the United States. I'm born in the United States. So there's a fundamental question. You a black man, I'm a black man. Am I eligible for reparations right now? I would say the answer is no, I'm not. Because my family is from Jamaica. My father's Panamanian. His grandparents were born in Panama. My father immigrated to the United States. So does that make me eligible?
Absolutely, I support
Now,
reparations
my
for
great
the
people, welcome
descendants
back.
of enslaved
And of
Africans
course,
in America.
let's now
As a
acknowledge
white man running for governor, I
that
recognize
black
the deep
Americans
scars left by
really
slavery and
needs
the ongoing
reparations. They
systemic
really need to
racism
be
that
paid
continues
these
to affect
reparations.
the black communities.
White Americans
It's not just
admitting
about
slavery,
acknowledging the past, it's
segregation, and
about taking
systemic
concrete
oppressions
steps to
were
address
real
the economic and social
devastating.
inequalities that persist today. As
Recognizing
governor,
that
I'll make
this
it my
injustice
mission to
didn't
ensure
just
that
end,
black residents of West
they
Virginia,
left
especially those
generational
who are
scars
descendants of
on the black
enslaved
Americans.
receive reparations.
Surprising
This is
to
about
see
justice,
that white
about making
Americans
things
publicly
right,
supporting
about helping
reparations
our
on
state
TikTok
heal and move
show
forward
how
together. Let's take a
conversations
cue from
around
California.
race
They're
and
leading the
history
charge with
are
innovative
evolving.
approaches to
Supporters
reparations,
argue that
setting up
if
structures
other
to
groups who
determine
suffered
eligibility and
historical
ensure
wrongs
fairness.
have
We can
received
learn from their
their
example and tailor
compensation,
a program that
why
fits
not
West
black
Virginia's
Americans?
unique
Why
needs
can't
and
they
history.
give
This isn't
black
a formal
Americans their
policy
reparations?
speech. This
Because
is just me
Indians have
talking to
received
you
their
heart to heart.
reparations.
It's time
Why
for
not
change,
black
and I'm
Americans?
committed
What
to
is
being a part of
going
that
on?
change.
What's
Let's work
up,
together
man?
to create a future
Why
where
not black
everyone
Americans?
has the opportunity
Now,
to
the key
thrive.
point many white
It's the least we
TikTokers are
can
making
do.
right
It's
now
long
is,
overdue.
even if they don't own slaves right now, because they don't own slaves right now, but they acknowledge that they benefited from it, and they still
Absolutely, I
benefit
support
from it,
reparations
and
for the
therefore,
descendants of
black
enslaved
Americans
Africans in
deserve
America.
to receive
As a white man running for
reparations.
governor, I recognize
Reparations
the deep
is equals
scars
to
left by
addressing
slavery and the
privileges
ongoing
and
systemic
balancing
racism
opportunity.
that continues
Now,
to
some
affect the
see it
black
as a
communities.
progress.
It's not just
Finally,
about acknowledging the
acknowledgement
past, it's about
beyond
taking
lip
concrete
service.
steps to
Others
address
are
the
still
economic and
skeptical.
social inequalities
They
that persist today.
claim
As
that
governor,
they
I'll
didn't
make it my mission
benefit
to
on
ensure
slavery,
that black
and they
residents
don't
of West
own
Virginia,
any slaves
especially
right
those
now,
who are
so they don't
descendants
see
of
the
enslaved
need
Americans,
of
receive
black
reparations.
Americans
This is
receiving their
about justice,
compensation.
about making things right,
Okay?
about helping our state
Now,
heal and
what is
move
this
forward
bigger
together.
picture that
Let's
we're
take a
getting?
cue from California. They're
Reparations
leading the
aren't
charge
just
with
about
innovative
money.
approaches
It's
to
about
reparations, setting up structures
education.
to determine
It's about
eligibility
the
and ensure
healthcare
fairness.
systems that
We can
black
learn from their
Americans
example
cannot
and
get.
tailor a program
It's about
that
the
fits West
land.
Virginia's
It's
unique
about the
needs
housing
and history.
system. It's
This
about the
isn't a
opportunities
formal
that black
policy
Americans
speech.
have
This
been
is just
digging
me
to get.
talking to you heart to heart. It's
We
time for
need
change, and I'm
these guys
committed
to
to
be
being a part
given
of that
reparations,
change.
not
Let's
in
work
form of a
together to
solid
create a
cash,
future where everyone
but in form
has
of
the opportunity
anything.
to thrive.
Apologizing to
It's the
the
least we
black
can do.
families
It's long
that are
overdue.
still healing from the scars that are left or wounds that are left because of the effects of slavery. So, in conclusion,
Absolutely, I support
the
reparations
fact
for
that
the
white
descendants of
Americans are
enslaved
now openly
Africans in
calling
America.
for reparations
As a white man
shows
running for
we
governor, I
might be
recognize the deep scars
entering
left
in
by
a
slavery and the
new
ongoing
chapter
systemic racism
in this debate,
that continues to affect
because
black
white people who
communities.
have been
It's
very
not
much
just about
skeptical
acknowledging
of
the
this
past,
topic
it's about
have
taking
now come
concrete
out
steps to
to
address
acknowledge
the
that
economic and
black
social
Americans
inequalities that
need to
persist
receive the
today.
reparations.
As governor, I'll
So it
make
means
it
we
my
are entering
mission to
into a
ensure
new
that black
era
residents of West
where
Virginia,
we
especially
start to
those
get
who are
people
descendants of
who are
enslaved
genuine
Americans, receive
about the reparations.
This is
They
about
want to see black
justice,
Americans
about
receiving
making things right,
their
about helping our state heal and
compensation,
move forward together.
and they're
Let's
supporting
take a
it.
cue from California.
But
They're leading
what
the
do you
charge
think?
with innovative
Is
approaches
this
to
genuine
reparations,
allyship
setting up
that
structures
these
to
people are
determine
fighting
eligibility
for.
and
Guys,
ensure
we
fairness.
support that
We can learn from their
Black Americans
example
to
and
be
tailor
given
a
the
program that
reparations,
fits
or you
West
don't.
Virginia's unique needs
Subscribe
and
if you
history.
love the
This
discussion.
isn't a formal
Leave us a
policy
comment
speech.
in the
This is
comment
just
section
me
and
talking
let's
to you heart
know
to heart. It's
if
time
you
for change,
support
and I'm committed to being a
reparations
part
to
of
be
that
paid to
change.
the black people,
Let's work together
or if
to
you
create a
don't
future
support
where everyone
reparations.
has
And
the
we support
opportunity to
reparations
thrive.
to our black
It's the
Americans
least we can
because
do,
we
and it's long
understand
overdue.
the history of slavery. We understand how our black Americans have suffered in the hands of these
Absolutely, I
guys.
support
So if these
reparations for the
guys
descendants
decide
of
that they're
enslaved
going to
Africans in
pay
America.
the black,
As a white man running
black
for
Americans the
governor, I
reparations,
recognize the deep
I think
scars
we have
left by
behind it.
slavery and the ongoing
We are
systemic
all
racism
rallying behind
that
it,
continues
and
to
we
affect
support
the
that
black
black
communities.
Americans to be
It's
given
not just about
their
acknowledging
reparations.
the past, it's
Thank you
about
so much,
taking
good people,
concrete
and let's
steps
meet again in my next
to
video. This is
address
your guy,
the
Fred,
economic
from
and
the
social
motherland.
inequalities that persist today.